Hey, welcome back, and welcome to those that are joining us for the first time this evening. I'm Brandon Totten, and I'm going to be your host for the Brother to Brother Lockdown this evening and our episode, Vote for Your Life Part 2, where we're going to be talking about Project 2025 and the impact on LGBT plus people and health. So tonight, got a great panel, of course, joining me. And first up, we got, our friend J. Lloyd Allen joined the faculty of Wayne State University as an assistant professor in the School of Social Work. He is a qualitative researcher who explores the ways that GLBT individuals communicate with their parents about their sexual orientation and sexual behaviors. Hey, J. Lloyd. Next up, we got Jonathan Ford, twin God, born and raised in Dallas, Texas. He has been an HIV advocate and ambassador for over 8 years. Jonathan has a social media engagement of over 75,000 followers across 3 platforms, in which he uses to spread the truth about and bring awareness to HIV stigma within communities of color. Hey. Next up, Tony Billups, born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. He is an HIV activist, advocate, and educator. Tony is also an author, podcaster, father, and grandfather. He believes that the only way to end the HIV epidemic is to have more intentional involvement with those that are most affected. Hey, Tony. All right, next up, Chris Sutton. Chris is a Detroit-based visual storyteller with over 10 years of professional experience in the art of filmmaking, cinematography, and video editing. Currently, Chris has joined the LGBT Detroit team as their full-time broadcast coordinator, where he assists in developing the LGBT Detroit broadcast network, as well as shaping his creative talents in various programs, including Listen Together, Cold as Hell, Hotter Than July, and of course, the Brother to Brother Lockdown. Hey, Chris. All right. Is that everybody? Is that all of us? We all here? Okay.
We keep this today. You want to introduce yourself, Brandon? Here you go.
You all know who I am. You know where I'm from. So today we're going to be talking about, again, Project 2025, that presidential transition project that you may or may not have heard about. So I'm going to read a little bit and then we can dive into our discussion. So Project 2025 refers to a conservative political initiative launched by the Heritage Foundation and other conservative groups in the United States. The goal of Project 2025 is to create a comprehensive agenda to guide a future conservative presidential administration, particularly if Republicans win the White House in the 2024 election. The project focuses on reshaping key aspects of the U.S. government, including the executive branch reforms, administrative policies, and changes in various social and economic sectors. So I want to turn it over to you guys and just get your insight about Project 2025 and what you've heard about it, what you may not have heard about it and just heard about it. Kind of talk to me about what you know. Anybody?
I'll start.
Okay. I know you are burning the unmute.
Go figure. Me want to be first. But I think Project 2025 is scary, but I mean Project 24 is even scary. I mean, the things that they want to do are just as terrible as the things that they're doing now. I mean, look at what they did in Florida with the Don't Say Gay bill. I mean, it's the same type of negativity and foolishness that we have now. The whole thing about reversing Roe versus Wade, all of this stuff, if you look deep enough, is all in that playbook to where we're going to end up in some type of plutocratic theocracy in which we all got to worship this same God, mainly whoever they put in the White House. The whole thing with IVF, there are so many things. The book bannings, like all of this stuff is the precursor. And I've been telling y'all for the last 4 years, like we are living in the prequel of The Handmaid's Tale. When you look at what Project 2025 looks like, and think about what The Handmaid's Tale is, that's where we're living now. If they get into the White House, it's going to be even worse. It's going to be even worse. And people don't, and I don't understand why. Well, I do understand. People don't understand this because we just spent the last 30, 40 years being taught civics by football coaches. So, like, instead of historians. So, like, people don't know how the government works. They don't know how most of the rules work. And so they're just going by, they're just joking around. We're gonna end up in chains, folks, if we're not careful. That's where we're headed.
Yeah. I'll tap in real quick. I think, especially related to brother to brother, where we have an open space as Black gay men to really talk about our experience in the community. I think what's terrifying about Project 2025, and I'm echoing off of what Tony is also related to too, because a lot of this is going on right now, is that I think we neglect that for LGBT folks. I mean, we're still fighting to get just a small piece of the pie, but even that could be completely stripped away. When we think about our rights, especially when it comes to discrimination in the workplace, when it comes to even what we're seeing in Florida, where we have the Don't Say Gay bill, these things may not seem that important, right now. But what I think about is specifically with our youth. If you're in the school system and you are an LGBT kid and you're looking for guidance, you're looking for someone to kind of help you figure all these things out. And when an instructor, a teacher, a guidance counselor can't even speak on, how you identify or what you feel without, worrying about potentially dealing with severe consequences, you have to think how that's going to increase. And I'm just being frank, like the suicide rates against LGBT youth. Because again, when we look at suicide rates, when we look at homelessness, it's impacting LGBT kids more than anyone else. And that's even more amplified when you start talking about LGBT kids of color. So it's like you think about how things are already challenging, but it can get so much worse if we're not being proactive to kind of protect the rights that we do have now.
And to kind of piggyback on what they're saying, though, we definitely, I think a lot of people are also not thinking about it within the greater context of civil rights, right? They think that because the Civil Rights Act was passed, then most Black people specifically and LGBT folks will be covered. And what they don't realize is that the specific issues affecting LGBT folks are going to be affected, right? The right to adoption. LGBT folks are not going to be able to adopt anymore. Access to affirmative healthcare, and a lot of times people use this word like gender affirming care. It's especially important for LGBT folks because it's not the same as going. It kind of is the same as going in to get a mammogram or a colonoscopy. But if you roll back or implement Project 2025, that kind of stuff will go away, and so now your health becomes at risk, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's a cascading effect. And so, but I think a lot of people want to think about it within the context of, if Project 2025 comes in, we still have protections under the Civil Rights Act. But again, Roe v. Wade was what they call it? What is it? Statutory law?
Codified law.
Codified law. And they went back and they changed it, right? And so this is also what Project 2025 is doing, is going back and looking at quote unquote codified law and making it more difficult for Black people and LGBT people. But I also think that the people who are also going to be affected, white women, are not thinking about it, right? Like if you saw with the affirmative action thing that happened at Harvard, like all these Asian kids were like, Black students are getting in. Now take a look at it, right? They've seen a drop at the Ivy League schools because most people, they're thinking, this is only affecting a small subset, or it's not affecting my subset. So they're going to support it. And so we have to be very mindful of that aspect. So that's all.
Awesome. Good.
I want to add one other thing though, and both J-Lo and Chris brought this up, but like all of this, even though it negatively impacts queer people, but like Black and queer people, that's just a whole nother level of discrimination because, and again, white people don't get mad when I say this, but at the end of the day, y'all still white. And, even though queer people hadn't gotten, the full rights that you think you should get, we got even less. and we're queer. So like I it's like whatever happens, it's worse for us. It's like anything with social determinants of health, anything. Whatever happens, it's always going to be worse with us, and I don't want us to like negate that.
I want to get Jay Ford. I want to get your take just because I know some things are going on in Texas, and then I want to get to a question just because I feel like the question will be a good follow up after he kind of gives his account.
Absolutely. But to start off, I would be remiss to not speak on Marcellus Williams. I don't know if you all have heard of this individual. He is currently facing execution in his town. And basically, there has been new information that has come out about him, but he has proof that he has not murdered the white woman in the mix. But there is proof, there is evidence that he did not commit the crime, yet the judge over the case does not give a damn. He is meant to be executed in the next couple of days, I believe, but this is, I just found out, but this has been all over Twitter, so I would definitely advise people look it up. I think people are trying to sign petitions, but I would be remiss not to speak on that. Yes, so this whole Project 2025 is the blueprint of oppression, of oppressing, I believe, the LGBTQ rights. We are currently seeing it here in Texas for people who are not in Texas. I mean, we just have people in political powers who do not want to see anything gay related. They've already stripped things like stigma, racism, systemic racism. They're not even allowing people to write in grants for grants using those terminologies to receive funding. So it's already bad here. We are currently seeing that now in 2025. Y'all can look it up. Y'all can look up the judge from where I'm from, and you will see the news. He's in the news.
So knowing that, and hearing that, for those out there and on the panel, how can you encourage others to find out more about what Project 2025 means? And I want to go a little bit further in saying like what it means for the people in your orbit, because we know how we all speak, to each other on this panel about topics and issues like this, but oftentimes the people in our orbit or our everyday lives don't necessarily are not as plugged in as we are. So I want to get some strategy on how we can just get the message further into the community.
Okay, I also want to say, look up the name of Tafarj Johnson, who has the exact same bullshit going on as the guy that Jonathan mentioned in Texas. Alabama, he's 49 years old, been on the death row for years. Everybody says that this case is not valid, yet they still want to kill this man. But back to your question, Brandon, I mean, I don't know. Like, and if y'all got some good answers, I would love to hear them. Because at this point, think about what we went through in COVID. Like, we have now devolved, not evolved, we devolved into a society in which, well, if I think it must be true. You're a dumbass who barely got out of 5th grade and trying to tell somebody how to do medical stuff. And then we're going to put it over into politics. It's the whole thing, same thing with like confirmation bias. As long as you're saying what I want to hear, then I'm going to do what you say. So like, and then one of my best friends always says feelings ain't facts. But like, in order for us to move people from where they are to where they need to be, it's almost as if something bad has to happen to them before they realize it. But by the time that happens to us, it's going to be too late. The amount of black men, the amount of straight black men, and some of these queens who want to vote for Trump boggles my mind. And I don't have the bandwidth to talk to them about it. And I don't know if that's right, wrong, or indifferent. I just don't have the bandwidth. I would rather spend my time on people who are like on the fence. And even now, I don't understand why you're on the fence. We don't know enough about her. Well, you know enough about him.
I mean, if anybody watched the debate, what was that, maybe a week or two ago? I mean, even though I don't feel like we even needed that, but we had a watch party, and I mean, like 10 minutes in, it was like, why is it even like, why is there even any kind of like question?
Why are we watching this?
Because literally, I mean, everything Trump was saying was psychotic, like literally psychotic, right? I heard some people saying, well, Kamala wasn't really talking about, like, what were some of her plans or whatever. I mean, one of the reasons, I mean, she did one, but so much of the debate was, I think, the viewers, I think the moderators trying to like understand the psychosis of Donald Trump. We couldn't really even hear anything else. Like he was talking about the dogs and cats being eaten alive, and everything was centered around the illegal aliens. That was it. That was the whole 2 hours, right? Like it's not even debatable. But I think going back to what Brandon was initially asking about, like how can we impact the people in our orbit? Because I've heard, me, Brandon, we live in Detroit. This is a predominantly Black city, and I've encountered Black Detroiters saying that they're going to vote for Trump. And a lot of it, I'd be honest, is rooted in misogyny. A lot of it is rooted in the conservative mindset that a lot of Black Americans have from the Black church. And a lot of it, I don't know. I think I know you talked about COVID, and I keep bringing this back up because not only have we been so damaged by what we experienced during COVID, but I think the mental health of our society as a whole is it's in a really bad place.
Great before
it wasn't great before, but I mean, like again, coming from Detroit was one of the first cities that was hit so heavily by COVID. I mean, literally, the hospital that's only maybe a mile and a half away from where I stay was filled with bodies on top of bodies because they didn't have enough room in the morgues, and these are like whole families being wiped away in a matter of days. I don't know how you could recover from that, but when I think about like Project 2025 and how it's impacting us directly, I really think about like, reproductive rights. I really think about these bans against abortions and what that really means to us as a community, because I think, again, one thing that we experience, I think, nationally, but I know in a lot of urban communities is that so many people experience sexual violence. Like incest is a real thing. Rape is a real thing. I mean, we had a big issue in Detroit where so many rape kits were thrown away and, these cases were never solved. And there's so many young women who are violently assaulted sexually who shouldn't have to also deal with the fact that if after they deal with like a violent assault or rape, they have to fear like, well, if I want to, get the help that I need to not suffer even more, I got to worry about potentially a criminal charge, or my doctors have to worry about being criminally charged. I mean, that's insane because we also live in a country where we don't talk about rape and sexual abuse in a real way. We try to sweep it under the rug. And that impacts a lot of our communities directly because in a lot of Black communities, a lot of these cases are not being brought to justice. And I think the reason why we even experience so much violent assault is because there's so much shame around it. But you're adding on to that shame if a person who's been violently assaulted, like a woman especially, who's trying to have an abortion, whatever, it's her body. But if she feels that she can't even go to her doctor without worrying about potentially, literally, dealing with some criminal charges, that's going to add even a higher level of shame, which will increase probably more sexual violence that we experience in our community. So that's something that I think directly impacts us, specifically.
So I think I'm gonna take a different approach. So one of the things I like to do is I tend to tell people to go look at project2025.com, or is it .org, one of those, and take a look at the website, right? And I also listen to what people are saying without trying to convince them, because I think sometimes people just want to hear themselves speak. And sometimes they will talk, for some people who I've encountered, they talk themselves into not believing what they're seeing, right? Because they just want to talk. And some people are just, I've learned that people are also very argumentative. So if, let's say I go to Brandon, and Brandon is like not against, Brandon is for it and I'm against it. And if all I'm doing is trying to argue back and forth, tit for tat, then Brandon is going to double down in his point of view. But sometimes if you just let Brandon talk, not that Brandon is supporting Project 2025, I'm not saying that. I'm just using him as an example because he's a moderator, right? But sometimes when you let people talk, they get all the stuff that they've had inside their head out. And then you can actually find a common ground. And I think that's how we kind of change some of the narrative. But I also know that we're tired, right? We are sick and tired. What did Fannie Lou Hamer said? I'm sick and tired, right? I'm tired of being sick and tired. We're tired. We're tired of always trying to educate people. We're tired of always trying to meet people halfway. And I get it. But I've also learned that sometimes you just got to meet people where they're at and then try to get them to your side. Don't try to argue with them, because your opinion is your opinion. Like you said, your opinion is not facts. But I need you to get all your opinions out, and then we can start talking about the facts. But the first place to go, though, is to look at the Project 2025 website, and then go to the ACLU's webpage, because they break it down for you as to what this means. And I also realize that some Black people and some gay people, they do have conservative values, but they don't get to state what those values are without being criticized. And so, again, that's another barrier as to why sometimes we can't get people where they're at. But yeah, that's just my take.
Tony, J Ford, any thought?
I would have to piggyback off of Jay Lloyd in terms of resources, going to the website. And I mean, I can't think of people off top, but there are some credible people who can actually like go in and dissect Project 2025 and let you know like what it is and what's going on, because it's a lot of sources, because it's a lot of batshit craziness within it. But yeah, in terms of trying to like get people to vote or like, you know, to see what's really going on, I agree with everybody else. Like, I'm just like tired at this point. Like, I saw a post on Twitter the other day, and it was a page called Pissed Patriot. That's the name of this Twitter page, and they got a whole bunch of followers. And they had screenshots of different black men, and they said, beware of tarantula heads. So basically they said everybody who has hair like this, because they say it looks like tarantula like legs or whatever, are criminals. And I reposted it, and it's just like, if that type of stuff doesn't cause a reaction, I don't know what the hell will. So now anybody with my type of hairstyle is a criminal. There's nothing more I can say.
It's funny because that brings me to switching gears a little bit to my next question. So, in you all's local community, on and offline, how do you see political rhetoric affecting people during this election cycle and how they plan to vote?
I see a lot of people who are not really normally engaged in the political discourse, piping them up now. It pisses me off because you wait every 4 years before you decide you're going to become a political pundit when you don't vote in your own local elections, which is dumb. And again, like, I mean, even somebody mentioned hypocrisy, like with conservative values. Even the news that we got today with with Mark Robinson from North Carolina.
I was gonna bring that up.
I'm like, bruh, like literally, you didn't talk about trans folks, you didn't talk about gay folks, and now you like a black Nazi who likes having sex with trans women because you get the man without the man. Like, get out of my face with this. It is. I hate to keep talking about The Handmaid's Tale, but like literally, it's like it's not okay for you to do it, but we can do it. It's like even the stuff that's going on with Diddy that we talked about, last week before we realized how bad it got this week. Everybody calling us punks, sisters, and fags. Y'all doing the same stuff on a whole nother level. That level of freedom, I can only wish.
Would they say 1,000 bottles of baby oil?
700 dildos. Like, what are y'all
Johnson & Johnson.
Hold on. Lord. Wow. Jumping off of that one. Now I can get 1,000 bottles of baby oil off my mind. But that's not like it's not But that kind of goes back to, I think, how we're being manipulated, right? So like, I remember when Trump was running in 2016, and how the media took it as a joke right? And how I think a lot of that reflected back on the public. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, Trump is an entertainer. He's a performer. He's a con artist, right? He knows how to put on a show. And we live in a day and age where, everybody wants to be a reality star. Everybody wants to be a housewife. Everybody wants to be a content creator or an influencer, right? I think what's crazy now is that even though I love the fact that we have so much accessibility to knowledge, we're not fact checking, right? We'll jump on the phone and we'll believe anything. And it could be your crazy ass uncle. You're like, you saw what he just posted, and you sharing it before you know it goes viral, right? And it's all literal fake news. And I think, that's why even with our platform, I think it's really important for us to make sure that we're providing people with factual information because, a large part of, I think, why we can't even get over these humps, and even though I don't like using this terminology, but we get caught up with distractions. Like even the Diddy situation, right? And not to dwell on that for too long, but again, more folks are focused on the baby oil and the freak off parties than the rape, and the actual violent assaults, and the drug and the sex trafficking. Because let's be real, people having freak off parties is nothing new. More than likely, your grandmama was at a freak off party at the church. That's whatever. It's the fact that he was using these freak off parties specifically to blackmail people. And the reason why he was able to blackmail people specifically because we have so much shame around sex, shame around sexual identity, all of that type of stuff. But that goes back to the distractions. Like we have bigger issues, right? Far bigger issues. And I think like even when Trump did this whole thing about black jobs, right? Like he's trying to pit us against other marginalized people. And we all suffering. We all struggling. That even how the Republican Party is pushing this whole illegal immigrant thing, like our biggest threats are folks crossing the border. I mean, to be honest, there's white folks shooting up schools and banks and towns every day. We ain't telling them to go back to Europe, right? They're just as much as illegal aliens or anybody else. They're not indigenous people here. So like, again, I go back to, one thing I really want people to do sometimes is log off, right? Go speak to people who are actually knowledgeable about this stuff. Do your research. Don't spend all day scrolling because it just keeps us in this chaotic mindset where we don't know what's real and what's fake.
So for me, I hear both sides of the story, right? For some people, it's the simple fact that they don't feel connected to the Democratic Party. They feel that sometimes the Democrats will dangle things in their face, but then not give it to them. And they feel like you want my vote, but you're not giving me anything. And I hear a lot of conversation. Oh yeah, we got $1,400. I'm like, that was 6 years ago. Let it go. Or 4 years ago. Like that $14 is not serving you right here, right now. Right? We try to have this conversation about like, what are your immediate needs right now? And I think that's kind of where the disconnect is and why a lot of people are like, yeah, I believe in the 2025 or Project 2025 because they're saying very concrete things that I can get behind, while the Democrats are very abstract. And that's kind of the biggest struggle. And so I don't know how to get people to move from that perspective, but I recognize that it's one of the big things that a lot of people are addressing, or they're feeling disconnected. They're feeling like it's a white woman's party. They're feeling it's the wealthy people party. They're coming in, they're seeing celebrities and all that stuff. They're not seeing the poor black person who's working hard and struggling. So that's what I've heard. Again, it's not something I believe, but it's something I've heard.
And it's probably true, J-Lo, but why is that? It's because we only go vote every 4 years.
Yeah, that's what I tell them. Because I tell them, like, look, voting for Kamala isn't the issue. Because who's your mayor? Who is the person down the street that is, who's your congressperson in your city? Do you know your mayor? Do you know your local city and state representative?
But not only that, in 2 years when the House of Representatives come up, y'all don't go out and vote for them. So like, and that was the criticism from Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. In 2008, we did this, and he didn't do nothing else. Yes, because he lost the House and the Senate in 2010 because y'all didn't go out and vote. Because he taught civics by a coach. Like literally, like even when you talk about dangling stuff in front of people's faces, if they the only thing that has stopped the stuff that the Democrats wanted to do was us not going back to the polls and the Republicans stopping it.
Yep.
The stuff with the debt forgiveness, who's stopping that? It ain't the Democrats.
It's not.
But we are not evolved enough to do complex thinking to say if A equals B, then C is D squared. Like what are we doing here?
But you know what I'll add to that too, Tony, a little bit.
This is not the fault of the Democrats. This is the fault of lazy constituents who only vote every 4 years and then get pissed off when the stuff that they want to happen don't happen because they've done nothing to keep it in place.
Oh yeah, and it's also like everyone thinks that the Joe Biden can do so much. I'm like, Joe Biden can't do shit, right? However, your mayor, that congressperson down the street, they can do stuff for you in your specific city. Joe Biden also doesn't rule your city. If Joe Biden was supposed to do something that affects your city, you'd be upset because you'd be like, oh, he's supposed to be running the state. So like there's a cognitive disconnect between what people want and how they understand the government operates. And they don't recognize that there's 3 branches of government at the state, federal, and city level, not just at the federal level.
I want to add something real quick.
Go ahead.
That, the one thing I will say with the Democratic Party that I feel like is one of our weak points is that I feel like, one, there is so much of a focus for us to be like, I don't know, to try to hold ourselves to this standard that, in my opinion, is not really realistic, right? So, like, I've seen so many Democrats and so many liberals who will create a divide on, not saying these, on issues that are not important, but kind of lose sight of the bigger picture, right? Like, the one thing the Republican Party does incredibly well is that they stand together no matter what. The fact that they are still standing in line with Trump, even though Trump literally was basically trying to rally execution against his own vice president, shows you that they are aligned with their party no matter how insane it sounds. With us, I mean, every little disagreement creates this breakdown where we're not collectively focused on the bigger picture. And that's not only when it comes to national issues, but when it comes to local political issues, right? Like, I feel like even when we talk about marginalized communities, right? Like, we talk about Black folks, LGBT folks, disabled folks, right? I mean, just a prime example, the conversation, kind of don't even know if I want to touch on this, but this is a whole conversation around Israel and Palestine, right? Like, there are a lot of folks who are very vocal about how they feel about that. And those feelings are valid, right? What's going on in Gaza, what's going on against the Palestinians is genocide. But I also kind of feel like we have issues going right here in America that are reflective of a genocide against our own people. And we haven't even handled those issues. And it's like, I get it. We have to look at the whole scope of things. But I feel like for us to even get to a higher point, we have to fix some of these fundamental issues we have right here. And a lot of times we can't even agree on that. We can't even agree on the fact that we just want human rights. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like in the Democratic Party, because let's be clear, there's a lot of Democrats who are really conservatives. There's a lot of Democrats who are not really fighting for us as a whole. But I feel like if we could stand on one thing, right, so we could get to these other things, we can maybe progress a little bit further, you know? So I don't know. I feel like that's one of the big flaws that we have with our Democratic Party.
Tony, were you about to say something?
To Chris's point, the problem with us versus them is, one, the Republican Party is a majority white party, right? And white people gonna white. I mean, it is what it is. The few Latinos, the few Black people, the few Asians who are in there, most of them are only Republicans because they actually achieved some form of wealth. One of my cousins, I found out brokenheartedly, is a Republican, but she's only a Republican because of fiduciary things like finance. I get that. I think there is a lot of government waste. I think there are better ways for us to restructure programs. I get that. I'm fiscally conservative myself, but as far as the social stuff, she's on everything. She welcomes me and her gay cousin-in-law. Like I'm okay with Republicans like that. I really am. I'm not okay with Trump supporters. And so, like, and they are mostly white and racist as hell and only wants things for them and uses the other people to accomplish their goals. Conversely, the problem with the Democrats are, we have we're the minority party when it comes to bringing minorities in. And the problem with that is minorities still come with the same bullshit as, everybody else. So you got black people in here. Well, you got a lot of black people who don't like gay people. You got white women in here. You got a lot of white women who don't like black folks. You see where I'm going with this? So, like, it's like, well, you have a lot of immigrants who are Latinx immigrants in particular who are anti-abortion. Then the problem with us is we become one-issue voters. So I'm only voting for black issues. I'm only voting for Latin, and we don't think about anybody else. So for all the good of us being a big tent party, the tent is segregated. And it really cuts down on our effectiveness as a voting bloc. White women are cool until you start talking about DEI and unanswering some of them jobs that they got that they shouldn't have got. They're the ones who benefit most from affirmative action.
Quiet.
But when they got rid of it, they didn't say a word because why? They are still yet white. That's our problem.
You're laughing, Jay Ford. Do you hear specifically, because I know you touch a lot of younger populations, do you hear discussions about this topic, Project 2025, amongst that, younger voting bloc or this new, I guess, voting bloc that is entering, this voting cycle?
To be honest, I'm not hearing enough conversation. And it's scary. Like, and I know people get on social media and they'll joke and be like, oh, like they'll joke about the stimmies that they were getting and all this type of stuff. And it's just like, yeah, I really don't understand. Like, and I think that I'm blessed and cursed to be in a position to see real time what's taking place. Like, and that's for me is scary. Like, cause it's like you seeing it real time. I know you hear about it, but I'm seeing it real time. Like,
have we become to piggyback off that, have we become a people that only responds to sensationalism, do you all think?
Absolutely.
If something is only in, the national mainstream media, then people see it as a plus minus depending on what the news is.
I feel like No, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I feel like our community just takes, like, we don't know when to sit down and really be serious. Like, everything has become a joke on social media. I was just looking online, and I don't know. Long story short, everything is just a joke, especially for like the younger generation. And I think that like there's a time and a place, and they haven't established that yet. And I think that like even with some of these posts that I've seen about like some people, I don't know if y'all saw it on Facebook, but like it's been people posting about like, oh, why are people on these dating apps HIV positive and not telling people? And so people are getting like traction by causing that type of mess, and they thinking it's a key. They think I'm finna get followers or I'm gonna go viral. But it's like we've created this sense of like we can just promote foolishness and gain from it, and we got to cut that out. So everything is a joke, everything's a key, and it's like we need to get back to the basics. So we really need to establish like talking about some real shit, relevant shit, and staying away from just bullshit. That's how I feel. And I'm gonna make a video this week about that shit too, because that shit pissed me the fuck off. Because people are posting that talking about you on Jack, worried about what the fuck what people are doing. Worried about what you
yeah. I think I saw that thread, but yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. But I was also going to piggyback off of what Jonathan was saying, is that a lot of people take a lot of things for granted. I don't know if it's trauma response, but a lot of times I see stuff online and you want to go down these rabbit holes just to figure out like what is really going on. And I can think of the case with the wedding dress saga that happened, where this lady had said she made a $10,000 dress and the person didn't pay them. And I was like, and everyone was quick to blame the bride and saying that she should have paid. But then the bride came back with receipts and said, nah, the dress was $6,000. I offered to bring her out here, and she never showed up. I went to Miami for a week for the fitting, and she never showed up. And she had receipts. And then everyone was like backpedaling and like, oh my God, we're so sorry. And I'm like, but y'all didn't fact check. Like, y'all heard this one negative thing and y'all took it and ran with it. Right. And so we take what they say, bad news travels fast. Right. So when we hear negative stuff, we gonna take it and run with it. And like Brandon was saying, we have become a society that focuses on a singular issue. Right. What about me? Like, let me focus. What's my issue? Right. I could say, well, student loans ain't getting repaid. Like, he ain't cancel student loans. I'm not gonna vote for the Democrats. Right. Or, oh yeah, the Haitians are eating cats, so I'm not gonna vote for them. Right. So we focus on these minute issues and rather looking at the big picture. And I think this is what Project 2025 does. And it does it well. It focuses on very particular issues that will affect random people. So if you don't like LGBT plus people, you have something in Project 2025 that addresses that. If you're against immigration, you have something in Project 2025 that addresses that. If you don't like DEI work, there's something in Project 2025 that addresses that. And I think that's, as Chris was saying, that's what the Republicans do well. They will give you an issue and they will beat it to the ground, right? So that you understand that its importance or why they deem it important. Unfortunately, the Democrats, sometimes they all too inclusive. Yeah, right. And so that a lot of people are like, you're not addressing me, you're addressing them. That's affecting them. So I'm black. The gay shit don't bother me, right? Or I'm gay. The black shit ain't bothering me. So that's why I support it. And so we have to be very mindful of that as well. Is we have to look at the big picture, but we also have to be very careful that we lose. I don't know if it's you lose the forest, you see the forest for the trees, or you see the trees for the forest. Like don't lose the big picture just by focusing on this one small issue.
I think tapping on what you were saying earlier, Brandon. I think I was literally in the gas station earlier today just getting some gas, and I'm a big guy, so people walk up to me and they come in with like, oh, I know you playing this, I know you doing this, I know you do these sports or whatever. So somebody came up to me and was like, oh, I know you play pro, whatever. I know you're a pro athlete. I was like, surviving in Detroit and just surviving, period, is like a professional sport by itself. And it was like, oh, yeah, I can relate to that. But I say all of that because I think now, again, since so many of us are stuck on our phones, I can't jump on Facebook or whatever they call it, Twitter now, or TikTok, without seeing suffering, specifically our suffering, being made profitable, right? Like, we literally just had a shooting here in Eastern Market during the tailgating, right? 2 people lost their lives, right? The videos, the footage of these 2 people dying in Eastern Market was shared all across social media. People are watching. People are filming like live deaths, right? And it's getting clicks and it's getting engagement. And on top of that, these social media platforms, they're making money. They're making money off this. Every click, every scroll is making them money, even if it is our suffering, even if it's traumatizing families and God knows who else. And I think even when we talk about like our political issues, we've become so accustomed to like suffering as it, and not only suffering, but treating it as it's a joke or as it's entertainment. Like, I don't know how many times I'm on social media and it's like just folks fighting. We got reality shows like The Baddies or whatever, where they're just fighting for no reason. Grown ass folks just fighting for no reason. And people, and it's like, when you have people who are that in tune or just that comfortable with pain and harm inflicted on our own people, it's hard to get anything across to them, right? And I mean, that's why I like, honestly, I really, we want people to watch this live stream. We're online, but after this is over, log off, go touch some grass, talk to somebody who actually cares about you. Stop worrying about the next person on Instagram and Facebook. Find some real people around you and have some real conversations, because again, we're attaching ourselves to this constant feed of, we got to be up on everything. And a lot of stuff is not important. We have important issues, but worrying about the Kardashians or Krishan or God knows who else on OnlyFans, like, get off of that. Like, find some people around you, find community around you that you could speak to in person, that you could see in person, who's not going to just sit up there and troll you because they know they're behind the keyboard, and build something with that. Because again, I feel like a lot of these young folks, I think, can't even hear us talking about like what we can experience in the future, because all they're seeing is this pain being force fed to them like right now in the moment, constantly on their phones and on their devices. So yeah.
If we are that, or we become that desensitized, are we ultimately doomed? Do you all feel like, because even today, I could tell just by this topic, it really does change the energy. And I feel like one of the reasons is because a lot of us, or I'll just speak for myself, don't really know what to do. I spent probably 45 minutes on the Project 2025 website. And when I tell you, it is, just go on and read it. It is very, very detailed, down to what the president would need to do to dismantle the Department of Education and what that looks like. And just saying that, just in my own orbit, it doesn't, stimulate the response that I think that it would. And so I'm just concerned, like, how do we, what is our launching pad? Like, how do we get there? How do we get people specifically about voting, and specifically that age group that is not plugged in online? So I'm talking about Generation X. Like, how do we talk to those people? The young people are engaged. They have their way of getting this specific information, but I don't think they have the brain power to understand what Project 2025 looks like in its totality. So those 40, 50, year old voters, how do we get them kind of informed, or shape what it could potentially look like if it's implemented?
As a 50-year-old voter, closer to 60, I think that we're set. Like, I think we're set where we are. Most of us were born in the late 60s, early 70s. We grew up in a time where the racial segregation legally was going away. I often think that if I had been born 3 years earlier, I probably would have experienced a whites only bathroom or water fountain situation. We grew up in a time where we were almost forced to kind of like get along. And this became very obvious to me in 2008. I graduated in 1985. I went to a mostly white school, and we were really cool, I thought, until 2008 came around. And when 2008 came around, they showed their true colors. The monkey memes of Barack and Michelle, we can't let this N-word get in the White House. And then you like, hey, what's up on Facebook? Q. Like, we ain't got nothing to talk about. And then it was the ones who were kind of quiet that you kind of kept around to 2012, and then they showed their asses. And I was like, Q2. So, like, next year is my 40th reunion. I'm not going to my 40th reunion because I don't want to be around these CACs and dealing with their bullshit. And I say that the ones of us who are liberal or progressive minded, that's what we're going to do. The ones of us who are not, that's what we're going to do. But it bothers me and there are a few, like, I don't think that we're the generation you need to be focused on. Like, there are a few of us who are like, well, I need to know more. And they're just being fake. They already know which way they're voting. They just want to pretend like they're not. They want to be on the CNN undecided voters poll. They know what they're going to vote. I don't know how anybody's undecided at this point. If you're saying that you're undecided, you're a freaking liar. You are a liar. There's no way you're undecided right now. You are a liar. You need to get your shit together.
Chris, J-Lo.
Listen, that's
I mean, especially being in the age group that we're in. Like, I have a good friend that I question all the time about, when I hear that statement of what is she going to do for us, it just sends me into a rage, because I don't really understand as a person at this age group could really kind of think at that level about a general election and what the power of the presidency actually is. And so I'm, for me, myself, I asked that question because I grapple with it, even, talking to people that, and get them to understand that this is a blueprint. It is a roadmap. It is a very specific agenda that all he has to do is put specific people in place. Joy Reid said something very, very pivotal a couple of weeks ago that I don't think a lot of people have paid attention to, and it hasn't gotten a lot of mention in mainstream media. But if Donald Trump wins the presidency, who do you think will be the first two retirees from the Supreme Court? Alito and Thomas. They are waiting for a Republican president so that they can retire and be replaced with two more conservative justices. And I just don't understand why that
because they get it. Ruth and the white women love that Ruth Bader Ginsburg Pearl shit. She should have got down the first. There you go. Because they understand the mission and we don't. They understand the assignment. We don't. We're not voting for president. We're voting for the next Supreme Court justices. That's what we're doing because they hold everything. They get it and we don't. We get bogged down on this minutia about, well, what's she going to do for me? I'm sorry, but just because she's a black woman don't mean that she becomes the black president. She's the president of the United States, and I think it's ignorant for us to keep saying this stupid stuff. It's stupid and ignorant. It is stupid and ignorant. And again, that's why I get frustrated trying to talk to people about it. Because I'm like, you just said what? Like, how does that make sense? How is Barack Obama supposed to save all the black people? We've been in bondage for over 200 years. Now all of a sudden in 4 years, he's supposed to fix everything. It didn't break overnight. And then y'all don't go vote consistently. Let's go back to that. But you're right. Alito and Thomas will retire because they are circling the drain as we speak. And the white people know that this is what they got to do. They don't want Trump. I guarantee you, if you look at his vote, the 47% of people who are going to vote for him, I would say half of them don't want to vote for him. Mm-hmm. But they know what the assignment is, and we don't get that. We
got the receipts. That's what's so crazy to me. Like, we literally have the receipts.
JD Vance can't stand him.
Can't stand them. Literally, pretty much all these Republican power players have said Trump is insane. We can't stand him. We hate him. Whatever. But like you said, they get the bigger picture.
They know that they know the assignment.
And I feel like that's where we're losing out on. I mean, again, I understand like some of the instant emotions we have around a lot of these issues, but I'm thinking about, because like I said again, me and Brandon, we about to be part of I don't know if I should say this out loud. We're going to be part of Team 40.
I love it.
We're part of Team 40, and I mean, I'm you know what I mean. I feel like a lot of us here on this panel, we're really blessed to have a community and people that love us, a support system. We'll make it. I mean, even during COVID, we had each other, right? A lot of people don't have that, right? And beyond that, I'm thinking about our future generation. I'm not personally, me, Press, I'm not planning on having, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I'm not looking at having any biological kids personally. But I have so many young people in my life right now. I'm starting to learn like the value of being a mentor. That's something I didn't think about 10, 15, 20 years ago. And when I see the young people in my life, the early 20-year-olds and all of those, man, I don't want to see them go through the same bullshit I had to go through, or even worse. And it could be so much worse. You brought up Handmaid's Tale. That's truer to reality than fiction, and that's closer to what our reality be very soon. And I hear people talk about, I don't care, I'm not worried. You say that, but then when everything is stripped away, everything, even the little things you think you do have, that's taken away, then you're crying for help, but it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late.
I know we got like 5 minutes, but look, I want to bring up one thing, man, and I think this is probably one of the questions. Like, who feels like they were better off 4 years ago? That's what I want to know who them. I want to know who they are. Like, we literally run around here looking like people playing doctor half the time. People couldn't go nowhere. You trapped in your house. Somehow or another, you were better off 4 years ago. Make that make sense to me. I want to know who these people are.
They just enjoy work from home. That's all they enjoy.
And the $1,400.
And then you talk about, and then you think about the thing that he's better with the economy. He's coming in talking about 20% tariffs on everything coming from China. You know how much your iPhone gonna cost? Because guess who's not gonna pay the taxes for you? The freaking government.
Yep.
I mean, my God, talk about the economy being in a tailspin. He put the economy in a tailspin, and somehow or another, we get the blame for it. Same thing with Obama. Bush had screwed the economy up. Obama fixed it. Then you get Trump coming here and tear it up. Biden fixed it because they keep talking about Bidenomics. Bidenomics works for me. I don't know what the problem is.
How much time we got left? We got a 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah. So I want to get final thoughts. Tony, if you want to give your final thought, if that wasn't it, go ahead.
Go out and vote.
But
go out and vote blue.
Yes, I want to give what would be final thoughts on what your messaging would be to an on the fence voter.
Whatever your identity is, let me say this. Yeah, whatever your identity is, there is something in Project 21 that's going to screw you over, even you white men. Because you poor white men, y'all are going to get it probably worse, just like the rest of us. But whatever your identity is, Project 24 is not for you, especially if you're not a white, cisgender, heterosexual man. So go out and vote blue. You might not like all of the policies, but at the end of the day, that's your own personal selfishness that's going to get us tanked.
I was going to say the same thing. I agree 100%, Tony. Like, I mean, the white Christian male is the only individual who has not been oppressed. Black people, all we wanted to do was be 100% a human. We weren't even that not too long ago. Hispanics, they just want to be here. Women just wanted to be able to vote. They are the only group that has not experienced oppression. And we just want equality. We just want equity. They want leverage.
Kamala Harris said it best. A vote for Black people is a vote for all the United States. So vote blue. I think and just even this conversation, like I said, the first thing that popped into mind was the affirmative action, where they tried to take away the rights of one group, and it indirectly affected another group. Right, the group that wanted to take away the rights of a specific group, they assumed that Black people were not as smart, not as educated, and they wanted to strip those rights to say, "Hey, we need the same equitable access." And as Tony said, the only person that benefits are white, cis, hetero men, right? Because the rates of white men increased, the rates of Asian American men decreased. Voting for Project 2025 is like that.
I'm read that a group is planning to sue Harvard because not only did African American enrollment decrease, so did Asian enrollment decrease after that was reversed. Chris,
and it was their fault.
I won't say something that's probably a little bit out of pocket, but I'm speaking specifically to the cis het white men. If you don't put stuff together, y'all Project 2025 ain't passed. They want to take away your porn. All that freaky stuff you want to see on Pornhub and the hamster, the bukakis and the 50 dildos and your grandma taking off her panties.
That's already here. That's already here.
They're going to take away your porn. We know you watching right now. Y'all looking it up right now. So if y'all want to keep
wait a minute, what Jonathan said?
We currently in Texas cannot watch porn on certain times. I'm struggling. I have to be innovative. I got to go on backdoor sites and shit I ain't never heard of. I can't go right now. They say, sorry, user, you in Texas, and we can't show you what the fuck you want to look at.
And to keep it above.
I am dead ass serious. So, like, our region here, like, if I go on Pornhub right now, it'll tell me that due to your jurisdiction or your area, you are not allowed to be on this site.
So they're censoring already.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in Texas, I can't go look.
They're blocking it. They're pulling the facts down.
Porn is trash right now. Like it's so trash.
And the thing about it is that, I mean, to be honest, they want to see brother to brother BBC. That's what they really want to view anyway. So if y'all want to have access to all of those things, y'all better understand the risk about letting Project 2025 get in. So I don't hear it.
On that note, I hope you enjoyed tonight's conversation. Remember, not voting is a risk for a Project 2025 implementation, and according to Chris, they're coming for your porn. This is the Brother to Brother Lockdown. Vote for your part 2. I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode, and we'll see you at our next.
I'm sorry, Jonathan.
Oh, wait, hold on. Wait a minute now. Jaron, are you going to say a few words about...
Thanks, everybody. Thanks to the panel for a great conversation tonight. We have a LGBT Detroit health survey that we are asking folks to fill out. If you fill it out, you can win a $50 gift card.
And we also have a winner from our last episode, which is Jonathan Cooper. He's our winner from last week's episode for the $50 gift card. And we have one more opportunity for you to win a $50 gift card by filling out our health survey, which is at lgbdetroit.org/health.
Thank you, Chris. All right. We're taking a break for 3 weeks, and we will be back in October. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Night.